It's the Life After High School podcast.
Joey, brother, welcome to the show, man. I'm grateful for your time, and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Hey, Glenn, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. It's been a crazy week, crazy time since last time I've done a podcast in person. So this whole Zoom thing's been crazy, but we're doing all right. How you feeling today?
Great. I had a good day. Thanks for having me on the show. I was really looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Me too. So how long you right out the gate? How long you been growing that beard? That sucker. That's a man's beard, dude. Like how long you been growing that?
Well, before I had the job that I do now, I was kind of like clean shaven for a good while, and I've been there for about a year and a half. And the day after I got hired, I decided I'm not shaving anymore. So
Fair. Why bother?
I laugh because I wonder what my manager thinks. You know, when I got the interview, I was wearing like full suit, clean shave, slick back
To
hair,
the nines, everything.
and now I show up in like cargo shorts and everything.
Oh no.
Too funny.
Dress down, I guess, for the occasion. You always want that first impression matters a lot. So,
Yeah.
I understand. I do the same. So
I think it's funny.
yeah. Awesome. So let's go back then to your kind of transitioning into post-secondary school out of high school, and what was that kind of like, and how do we bring us all here from there to where we are today? What's that adventure been like?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, no pun intended. In high school, I think that I wasn't gearing myself to go to post-secondary school. It would have been maybe into like college, but I decided really early on, I had made up my mind that I was going to go into a trade, right? And I did industrial electrician co-op apprenticeship thing.
Jeez. And
that was, I think, in the fourth year of high school. And I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a linesman, actually, a hydro linesman, because that's what my dad does.
Oh, geez.
And so, I worked at this industrial electrician place, and I decided after like 6 months, I said, this sucks. So,
unreal.
I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? And my mom said, well, why don't you go to university and do something like through that venue? And I said, I really always wanted to become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this was my fourth year of high school. Right. And so I had no university courses ready to go. And there was no way I would have been able to apply. So I went to my guidance counselor, and I did summer school. I did, like a very, very intense year of high school, which was like my victory lap, right?
Yeah.
To get all these university credits. Somehow I passed all the courses with good marks. I got into Brock University for their concurrent education program.
Oh, cool.
And so like my dream was coming true.
Yeah.
The goals were kind of like set in motion, right?
Yeah, it's coming together.
But I got grouped together with a bunch of knuckleheads first year university.
Amazing.
And yeah, the story goes, we partied quite a bit, and so I actually got kicked out of I sort of got kicked out of the program.
It's like a mutual understanding of this ain't gonna work.
Yeah. But that really helped me, focus in on, the concurrent ed was a lot of different subjects, right? And the ones that I really, really enjoyed were science, like physical sciences and geography. Right. And so they said, you can still go to school here, but you're not going to be in the concurrent education program. And so I decided to dial in on geography and earth sciences.
Nice.
And so I spent, that first year was basically a write-off. And then I did...
Always is, dude. Always is. Always is. Yeah. Myself included. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I did another 4 years at Brock, and graduated honors geography degree at Brock, and then I didn't see any opportunity to get employment out of that, and so I decided to go do like a post grad thing. I was tossing up whether I should go to do my master's or go into something else, but I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants that entire time through university and through high school too. Kind of just the way I happened to go about things. And so I went to Niagara College for ecosystem restoration and ecology.
Yep.
And so born out of that, I got hired on to Conservation Authority doing habitat restoration.
Jeez.
It was really cool. I had a really great experience, and it was all contract work, which is a pain in the ass.
What is that like? What were you experiencing typically? Like every 6 to 8 months contract lengthwise, or
basically like that. My initial contract was 4 months, and I was just like, and like,
it's cool work though, eh?
It's great. Yeah. Oh man, I still miss that job. I've got a really great job now, but I think back, hindsight, you're always, grass is always greener on the other side. But it was a really, really cool job, and it's just that the contract work, worrying about where you're going to be next, where you're going to be in 6 months. You're going to have to look for another job. The security wasn't there. And, growing up in my household, my mom was a nurse, so that was an extremely secure job.
Yeah, very high demand too.
Yeah, and my dad was a hydro linesman. That was extremely secure.
Yeah,
right?
Same day.
It's like recession proof. That's what he always told me when I was a kid. It's a recession proof job. Even if there is a recession, you're still gonna have a job. People still need to be able to turn the lights on. So that was like built up in my mind to be the ideal occupation, something with stability. And so the Conservation Authority just didn't have that. And so when I was working at the Conservation Authority, I was getting contract after contract. Obviously, they liked me. I got to stick around.
Yeah.
I did a lot of cool. I jumped around, did a few different jobs. But honestly, during that time, I was putting out 3 or 4 resumes a week for a year. It was just I could not land anything else.
Nothing permanent, eh?
Nothing.
That's crazy. Now, before we move on with it, what was in that experience? What was you said it's a really cool job and it sounds incredible. What was something that stood out to you as a favorite experience or memory from that time? Or at least from that type of job, or from that job specifically?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the people, like most occupations or jobs or experiences in school, the people you work with and you get to spend the time with are really what make it. But I remember I drove to the job site with another guy that I was working with named Jack.
Nice,
Jack's a super cool dude.
Jack.
And just a solid stand-up guy.
Shout out. That's awesome.
The job for the day was we just hiked a trail and looked at trees, wrote which species of trees it was, and that's it. Just literally hiked around for 6 hours. So just, oh yeah, that's Norway maple. That's white spruce. That was it.
You didn't have to map where on the trail you found it, or how far into that. Just that. Just what trees were out there.
Well, we had a trail that we had to follow.
Right.
We want to know what trees are on this trail. Right. We want to know about invasive species. They want to know about species at risk. But I remember Jack and I walking around. We're just I cannot believe that this is a job. this
That's awesome.
is insane. Like we're just literally going for a day hike.
Oh my God.
It
Getting
was so,
paid
getting paid.
well the whole time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I had questions for you also. We were talking about my school. Where did you go to school?
So I went to school post-secondary at Algonquin College in Ottawa, good old nation's capital. So that's kind of
Nice.
where, yeah, man, that's kind of where my area took off from there. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, actually. Funny side thing is that I guess I was like, I had wanted to start a podcast when I was in like third year. And she was like in 2017. And she was like,
Mhm.
yeah, you've always wanted to start one. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, you talked about it when you were in like at work, like at class and doing projects. I was like, that's interesting. And then it's just kind of what was cool where I found my connection to you, aside from like having like Andre as like a mutual follower and seeing whatever you like, seeing the cool things you do, was what gravitates me to that is I had worked at outdoor centers, I'd worked at summer camps growing up, kind of for my contractual summer jobs, where I'm making one eighth of what my friends are making in the span of 4 months, but I'm having 200 times more fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm teaching kayaking on the lake in 20-degree weather. They're in a metal fabrication shop. I'm making pennies to their dollars, and I'm no regrets. So,
You can't,
good time.
there are no regrets with those types of experiences.
No, it's like hiking, taking tree notes down. There's no, doesn't get much better than that. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
You gotta think yourself and just like, wow,
Yeah.
like, this is a pretty cool job. But on the other hand, no stability, and you're making pennies.
Pennies
right?
to the dollar, yeah.
And so that's why I had to get out of there, and I knew that as much as I wanted to stay. But yeah.
Interesting. So then where did you kind of branch off from there? And like that was with like into a more geography focus as well? Or like still staying in that geography focus?
Definitely. I was focusing my job search around the sciences, and I really wanted to get into like wildlife, but it's extremely competitive.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to, once again, I was just kind of putting one foot in front of the other. Just literally falling into my next move. That's the way it's always been. I don't know how I've gotten this far, but
Unreal.
Like after putting out hundreds of resumes, I got a call back from the federal government to work as a meteorological technician.
Cool.
I had taken meteorology and climatology in university, and those were some of my favorite courses. And what was interesting was the girl that I had learned about the job from had graduated from the same program like 2 years earlier.
Oh, cool.
I'd never met her. I don't know how I got introduced to her, but it was on my LinkedIn feed, and I was just like, oh, that looks cool. I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Nice.
And so that, and I think that what really helped me in that labor pool for that job was my past experience in the military, because in the application, it allowed you to list your service number. And they said priority will be given to veterans.
Come on.
And Canadian Armed Forces members.
Which is what you were at the time.
Yeah,
yeah.
During that time, I was a reserve infantry soldier. Or I had just left. And so I plugged in my service number, and it worked. Miraculously.
Front of the line. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's where I work now. I work for Environment Canada, and it's like the government stable job that I've been looking for up until this time.
Wow. And that's your current job, eh? That's cool. What's like a typical day like in that industry? 'Cause that's a very new thing for me.
The government is a lot of paperwork. Yeah.
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 Oof. Eh.
But on a typical day, it's a really cool job. You're fixing instruments. Like I basically just go to weather stations around the Southern Ontario region and fix them and maintain them, make sure they're working,
Nice.
and monitor the data and make sure all that's good to go.
Mhm.
And so, thinking back, all that work with wiring and industrial electrician apprenticeship work,
Yeah.
that all fed into the job that I currently have.
Right.
Like in small ways, working with wires and having theoretical knowledge of electronics and stuff like that. And I also worked at an underground utility installer
Jeez.
that did like throughout university in the summers. I would work for this trenching company putting in underground hydro cables, and I would actually be subcontracted by my dad's hydro work to put in cables for them. And so, like, on some sort of same side of the coin, I was doing that hydro linesman work, but I was just, to a different degree.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a couple summers, and now when we do weather stations, we're doing trenching and we're putting in underground cable and stuff like that. So every step that I fell into led up to me fitting the role of this job extremely well.
No kidding, eh? Everything fell into place. Like it was just a matter of time. Just everything, like you said, manifested to help you with what you're doing now. That's nuts how it all played out.
And it wasn't necessarily me trying to push it that way, right? It was like literally just falling into my next move at every point.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. Interesting. Dude, so what so far career-wise, career-focused, for now, what is probably your favorite and your least favorite career experience so far? Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Everybody's got one, and they're always ridiculous.
There's pros and cons to all of them, but, I don't know, like, being in the military and getting screamed at all the time was a challenge, but you know what? It was really, really cool. I loved it.
Interesting.
Once you get past that hard surface, it's really, really cool.
Huh.
And there's like a respect behind that hard, harsh authority, So I can't really say that was a bad experience, but I did one summer at that trenching company. I was working with a guy named Jimmy. Jimmy was a hard ass guy, man. Oh, he was like degrading. And he would call me names on the job site. Just like, I was his slave, man. It was brutal. Not a nice guy. Not a nice guy to be around. And funny enough, before I had met him and worked for him, he won the lottery.
I hate him already.
So like he was still working. No. He was still working this crappy ass dead end, trenching job, but he was millionaire, screaming at me all day, every day.
Dude.
I was just like, man, like,
come on,
get out of here.
You don't need to be here. Oh no, that's incredible. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was brutal.
That's so awful.
He would just sit on his phone and I guess he was like in stocks and stuff, and he was just on his phone all day, and then he'd poke his head out and just yell at me and tell me to do this, that, this, call me names. It was just like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here. And that was my reminder. Every summer I would go to do that job, and it would be like, man, this is why I'm going to school, like, because I gotta get out of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
like you and I were talking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I had another buddy in high school, and he went into the trades right after high school.
Right.
And he became a really, 3 or 4, maybe not 3 or 4, 5 or 6 years after high school, this guy was making like $90K in the trades,
Makes
and
sense, yeah.
I was just in university, like stinking like $10,000 a year in debt to
Mhm.
pay for school, right? I was
Right,
taking
for
out
bigger.
loans to go to school,
Yeah.
and I'd save up over the summer and make like piss money, like peanuts,
Yeah.
and I was digging a debt hole while this other guy who didn't go to school was making tons of money, buying a house, buying a truck, and I was just like down in the dumps, I was like, man, I'm really feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah, it's a tough game to get wrapped up in when you start to compare yourself to people.
Yeah,
Like
and that's
it's
right.
brutal.
But now that I'm looking back on it, in the position that I'm in now, I'm thinking, I did the right thing. I think that I did the right thing.
Mhm.
And, if I had made that choice back in the day to go the same route as somebody else, like
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't be as fulfilled as I feel now. You know what I mean?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Like I have a similar scenario with a friend of mine, really good friend of mine. I've known him since grade 11 and he was in grade 12. He did 2 years of like professional soccer, but he came back. I'm not going to mention his name, but if he's listening, he knows it's him. So yeah, well, he if he has a problem, he'll talk to me about it. But no, dude, it's I went to school with him. He was studying like civil engineering or something at U of O, the University of Ottawa, right? And go Gigi's. And I was studying at Algonquin, and then we both were working hard. But, like I was managing time to like for friends, like to do all these things when I'm out of the city that I grew up in. So I'm like, this is a new experience, make the most of it, right? He was in the same boat. It was a new city, everything, but he was always focused on school, and it paid off. Where it's like now he's like you said, 80, 90 grand a year, like 6 figures, brand new truck, new trailer, like his trailer's bigger than my folks' house, like just ridiculous. But every time, the one in every couple months that I see him, he's working right now as a head engineer way up north, like Kenora, like out of middle of nowhere, Gravenhurst, doing doing road construction in the middle of nowhere, living out of his trailer. I see him once in a blue moon, and on that day, Joey, every time I hang out with him, I've never met somebody who's more exhausted than that guy. Just every day, he's just depressed. He's like, oh man. I'm like, I don't know what I should buy with my money, a jet ski or a quad. And I'm like, what? You and I have different problems, my friend, but I'm able to smile when I speak to people. It's like, man, you're just nice to everyone. I'm like, well, it's because I feel good. Like, I don't feel down in the dumps where everybody pisses me off just because they remind me of a guy who I used to work with. But then, like you said, you have guys like the lottery winner there who just want Jimmy, right? Who they just want, like, he works for those type of people every day.
Yeah, and that's the industry.
That
right?
is.
But people are meant for that industry. Everybody's meant for something, right? And those streams exist for those types of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. And it's interesting, but anyway, switching gears a bit. You plugged it a bit at the beginning when you made a reference that I think everybody will get now, but I got it, and I know you'll get it and know what I'm talking about. But wild geographer.
Yes.
Okay. So that's kind of how I was introduced to you. Take me through what that process was like. Like you created you have a separate account you created to display simply your passion for outdoor adventures, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So why is that a separate thing? And like it does well for like a separate thing, especially when it's not your personal. I mean, it is your personal, but it's like a passion hobby page kind of thing. And I think it's sick. So tell me how that kind of like, what inspired that to kind of come to fruition, I guess.
That's interesting. And you know what? I thought this question would be coming up, and so I kind of thought about it, and it's relatively new to me still. You know, I didn't even started it less than a year ago. I think in July, right?
Great.
I had always been an outdoorsy kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it. I didn't do any organized camps or anything like that. I went out with my dad, who you know had all the camping gear and you know the stoves, and I was just you know it was like a romanticized and idealized you know thing in my mind from a young age. But you know it didn't take a huge part of my life until the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the earth science studies kind of helped, you know, structure that as well. And time in the military, you know, being put in really, really harsh, uncomfortable situations and dealing with that kind of pushed me to, you know, crave it.
Right.
Crave being, you know, in shitty situations. But why I started it, I started watching guys like Joe Robinette, Jim Baird, Ted Baird, and another fella in Newfoundland called the Newfoundland Explorer, Justin Barber. And I was watching these guys' videos. And I've always been putting out something creatively from, you know, the age of maybe like 11 or 12. I was in bands, right? Mm-hmm. And we would record music. Yeah. And I've always recorded something creatively, putting it out, you know, recording demos in the basement at 12, 13, 14. And then later on, I got into another hardcore band and we were releasing like well-produced albums. And then I moved on to like another band but it was always creating a product, recording something authentic and genuine and presenting it to an audience, you know. Right. And I haven't done music in quite some time.
I should get back into it now.
I still play for my own sake, right. But that recording and putting stuff out there has not been a part of my life for a number of years. And I think that I was missing that. And watching the guys, like I mentioned, I thought, you know, that looks really, really cool. I like going outside and I like doing all this stuff. Why don't I just start recording it and, you know, put it together for, you know, for my own enjoyment. I enjoy putting the creative effort into recording and editing and producing a product for people to consume or to watch or to enjoy. I like to share that experience, right?
That's cool.
And I don't know, whether it's music or art or you know, videos like that. I think that's where that drive comes from.
Interesting. Just a desire to create.
Yeah. And I think I had been lacking that for some time, and that's kind of where it just kind of boiled up over time, and that's what the outcome was.
Interesting. Because now that's kind of the same reason as to why I started doing podcasts and everything, because it's almost like an outlet. And I still I'm not as consistent with adventure videos or travel videos or anything, if you've seen any, but like that I've done. But it's very, very cool to me to tell a story.
Right.
Create, right. And that's where I think there's something that people can take. Everybody takes out something differently, right? Or everybody goes through an experience differently. And being able to share a story or create something for somebody, they're experiencing an emotion when they see or watch or listen or in any way they choose consume what you're creating. they get to then, it's a form of connection that they feel with you. Where in this case, if people listening to the show, they hear me, they go for you, stay for me, like all these good things that happen. And then seeing your videos makes me immediately, I go, damn, I wish I was there with them. Second thought, man, that's really cool. I want to do something like it. And then third is kind of, man, I can't wait to ask this guy about this. Right. It's always like, those are, at least in this case with your Algonquin trip, like the most recent video, I think. Is it? It's not the most recent, is it? It is. It might have just been the first one I saw.
Yeah, they're kind of like the meat and potatoes of the content that I have up right now.
Right.
So.
Okay, that's why I stick to that one. But yeah, so then that's kind of what I get out of it, and then seeing then from what other people might watch, they might get something different out of it. But it's a very cool way, I think, to connect with people, and then seeing those things, and then I go, okay, this dude's sick. I want to talk to him. I want to meet him. Like, he's doing these cool things. We have this connection for him because I've done these. He's doing this. All right, let's pick his brain. And then now we're here. And that's kind of how that comes to fruition, which is fascinating, but also kind of terrifying when you think it's just a stranger saying, hey, you want a video chat for an hour on a Sunday, when you break it down, but it's a good time.
But I mean, I watched a number of your other podcast videos with other guests, and like it's really interesting. I found it really interesting the way you sat down and, like you said, picked their brain.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like the whole. I read the description in your intro video and the whole connection oriented, storytelling.
Interesting.
I think that's behind it all for me at the same time.
Just different form of different form of creating.
Yeah,
with the same medium.
I mean, it's a challenge though. Like getting into podcasting. Did you find there were hurdles for you to get over? Like,
yeah, it's a very weird thing because and I like want you to do this, but I don't. But I tell people, I'm like, listen to the first episode I ever did, and then listen to this one. It's disgusting to listen to. I don't it's like almost 400 views. Like, it's got a lot of downloads, like my third most downloaded. It's absolute crap. It's a great friend of mine, a really funny guy, but you can tell that we're both very like tense, and it's very awkward, even though we've been friends for like 10 years. I still like it's like, hey, so what's your favorite color? And I'm like fiddling with my phone. It's just brutal. There's connection. There's no genuine interest. It was just, but I mean, it's the first one you do. You can't really hold it. But yeah, when you see that development, that's kind of what helps. When sometimes it's like, oh, this isn't great. Or when you're by yourself doing your own show, I think what makes good episodes great is when the host is genuinely curious in what the guest is saying, or the guests themselves in this case. And so I think that getting over the hurdle, not much of a hurdle, but it was just a matter of getting more comfortable, building the skill that is conversation, because it is it is a skill.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I'm thinking back to, like, I did videos before the Algonquin trip, and I played them back for myself, and I was just like, this is nothing. Like, I don't know what to do with this, Unreal. And like it's hard to, because I came up with the whole wild geographer thing, and I was just like, you're almost like creating a new, not identity, but a new, like,
sort of
new concept of you presenting yourself.
Right. It's a different showcase of a personality that you don't usually put on display.
And it's hard to do that green and be authentic at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I was trying, like, holding a camera up and filming myself, and talking to somebody who's not there.
It's weird, isn't it?
I found that so strange at the beginning, and I was just like, yeah, so this is me at camp.
Yeah.
It was really odd. It's a hard thing to get used to.
Very, very difficult, dude. I think when I had a friend of mine ask me that when he was like episode 3 or something, 3 or 4, and he said he was like, "Hey man, do you get nervous? Like you seem very comfortable on camera." And I was like, "I don't feel very comfortable on camera, but when I went right after I graduated school, I worked at an outdoor center in Halliburton, and I worked at the summer camp there, and I." What did I do? I worked there, and then I left early and traveled Europe for 6 weeks. Like road trip with one of my best friends at the time, starting in Amsterdam, going as far east as Romania, and then cycling back through the Balkans and up through Paris. Wow. Yeah, epic. Vlogged the whole time.
A pretty cool trip.
It was absolutely wild, right? As you can imagine. And so then, like, I'm vlogging the whole time. So picture a guy wearing this exact hat with a red t-shirt of the summer camp with shoes and bright shorts, sitting on the front steps of the Monte Carlo casino with a video camera in front of his face, when you got Rolls Royces on either side of me and people dressed to the nines behind me, and security looking real upset at whatever I was doing. It's probably just their resting face, but you got comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. It's nobody, you're out there. It's like, oh, putting yourself out there. It's like, I was out there. That's right. It's crazy. So that's kind of where you get more comfortable doing things like that, but it's not, you can't teach it, right? It's kind of just, you got to be put in crappy situations to get more comfortable at them. So as you can imagine.
It's just like adjusting, right? I've been put in some pretty uncomfortable situations, like in military training. It was just, infantry is just being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. It's just like embracing the suck. But aside from that, being like, when I used to play in bands, I would play in front of, like, there was a couple shows where there was like 1,000, 2,000 people there, right? And I'm up on stage, like, screaming into a microphone, playing guitar and headbanging in the background. I'm looking at this group of people who are beating the living hell out of each other in the, like, mosh pit area, and they're listening to me, like, scream at them. I'm just like, what is going on here, And so, like, I got used to that, and performing like that came second nature after a while. And people would ask me too, like, don't you get nervous? But after a while, you just get so comfortable with it,
Yeah, and I was gonna ask, I think people, or you'd say, hey, is it easy to be a character? Like, you're playing that guy that is in front of 2,000 plus people, in front of another 15, 20 in the crowd, beating the hell out of each other because of the word. They're so influenced by what you're saying. And is it easier to do, like, just to go out there and be that person, and then all of a sudden you're now a different person? Or is it easier just to be yourself and put yourself out there?
That's a really good question. I had never really thought about it that way. Because I don't know. I don't think that I had ever really put on a character for that. I kind of just, it was a creative outlet, right? So I was just kind of like, after the first, going through the motions, it was just like balls to the wall, like, give it everything you got. Everything that you want to channel through this mode of expression. And like we were talking about authenticity, like, authenticity brings what's truly that piece together. And that's what people enjoy. They don't like, you can make the argument pop music isn't, like, necessarily authentic. People still enjoy it, but people who really, really enjoy stuff, they dig into that authenticity, right?
Yeah, and I think that authenticity, to your point, is where people get that where that opening is for people to connect to you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like with that side of you that is displayed in the wild geographer side, that was your outlet and expression, but that was my form of connection to you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Like
at least with that present example, that's
when I,
where
when I'm
so
when I'm wild geographer, right? I'm still like, it's just me. Like
right.
after going through the first little figuring out stuff, it's me, literally just laying it on the line, just being me and talking to the camera. You know, it's there's no character, there's no anything.
Mhm.
The disingenuine stuff doesn't really go very far, and you can
Right.
tell, right?
Yeah, and I think that was I always wonder that because when in terms of characters and like personalities, when I was working at camps, a lot of the thing was this character I was portraying that was just a version of myself turned up to another level where I can access that if I knew it was this wild, crazy, like just yelling all the time, like trying to make like the funniest things happen in every situation and like center of attention. Or then there's like the person who's reserved, level-headed, like very engaged in what's going on, aware but doesn't say much, versus the guy who's always talking. And it's like I'm almost like playing a character but then removing. But yeah, it's a very weird it's a very weird thing, but I think it's easier to be that way than it is to actually be yourself. I think being yourself
Yeah.
is tough. Authenticity is not easy to do or to be. But
Well, like there's the whole concept. Like when you come home, you hang up your mask, right? Your job of performing for everybody you interact with in your day is done. Just kind of relax, do whatever. But it
that's
makes
cool.
you think. It makes you think. I wonder how teachers do it. Like how do they go to work every day and deal with all these crazy kids?
Yeah, power to you. Like,
Yeah.
jeez. But so switch gears a bit. What is the most uncomfortable moment on a canoe trip you've had?
Hmm.
Because the military sounds like there was like a lot of different moments that all kind of would be similar.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it was like more volume process, but I'm wondering if there's a moment on a canoe trip that kind of stands out to you where you're like, oh shit, we got to do something.
Okay. Well, I got a couple of good stories for you.
I'm all ears.
Um, so I try to like pride myself on being safe, right? Especially outdoors,
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta be safe. Um, because at the end of the day, your 5 hour canoe ride or more from, safety, so you always have to have your mind on safety. But, complacency is also a thing. So
Oh,
I was I was collecting some firewood and I was pulling a branch down from a tree, and the branch kind of broke off awkwardly, and it smoked me in the back. It wasn't a small branch. It was like that, like a few feet long, and it fucking just wailed me. And I was just like, oh man, that could have been a lot worse, And it was just like a moment of clarity. I was just like, and I had brought out a friend of mine who was less than experienced in a canoe, and I
mhm.
had the dog with me,
Ah,
and you know, it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh man, I got to take a step back and really reevaluate what I'm doing here, and
mhm.
recenter my focus on being safe and having fun. You can have fun, but you have to be safe.
All right.
And you know, that reminds me of other stories. My uncle Clive, he's nuts, man. He's a go getter.
Clyde.
I remember him telling he was doing like ski rescue in BC. as like an occupation at one point. He was like
What?
a mountaineer rescue hero.
What an animal. Oh my God.
One of those jobs that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's like probably an experience of a lifetime. But
Oh yeah.
he said that he was on a hike with his kid, my cousin, and they ran into a grizzly bear. And he said they were like 6-hour hike from the car, and he had
Oh, your dad.
oh, he was just like I was
Oh.
asking, like, have you ever come across bear? Or, like, I was asking him similar questions you're asking me. Some crazy stories. Tell me some crazy stories, Uncle Claude. And he tells me the story, and he's like, in that moment, I looked at Caleb. I was just like, oh man, this is a very, very bad situation. And he was just like focused on the moment, remembered what he was supposed to do if he ever came across a bear. And he said he was like, you know, maybe like less than 100 meters away from the bear, and the bear noticed that they were there. You know, a lot of times if you're upwind or if you're downwind of a bear, they won't smell you, and you can probably just like skirt around and have to interact with them. But he said he remembers the bear looking straight at him, and he was just like, this is not good. Picked up my cousin, put him on his shoulders, and he just started walking back slowly. And I was just like, man, that's one crazy ass story. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's not only him that was there, you know, he's got
dude.
like young toddler kid there too, right?
Just put him on the shoulders and backed up. No way. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Stress me out. Those are BC bears. It's not your average black bear.
Black bears around here are different, right? You don't have to, you need to be safe, but
big dogs.
Yeah, they're different beasts than grizzly bears and Kodiaks.
Oh yeah, that's no thanks. That's no messing around there. Jeez.
There's a story I was thinking of, less of a safety concern, but it was in that Algonquin video with my buddy Bryce and I. My buddy Bryce and I go back quite a long time, actually. He was the guy I partied with too much in university and got kicked out of
no regrets, baby.
Yeah, so
it's a write-off.
His nickname is Bad Luck Bryce. Just like terrible luck.
Oh no.
He's the nicest dude, like super stand-up guy, brilliant. But he's got this thing about him, and it's a quirk. He's got bad luck sometimes. I think it's hilarious. But, I remember we portaged. It was like a 600 meter, 800 meter portage, and then we had to canoe. I think it was like 4 kilometers, something like that, 4 or 5 kilometers, and it was an okay stretch of river and lake. But we get to the other portage. You know, it took us like, I don't know, maybe an hour, 2 hours to do that little stretch. And we realized when we were unpacking the boat, we forgot an entire bag of food.
Bro.
Back at the portage that we had just left. It was kind of getting late in the day, and we were lollygagging and fishing, and you know, at that point we were just like, wow, we screwed up. And now we got to pour the coal on because it's going to be dark soon, and we got to go get that food. Otherwise, and so we hustled back, and then hustled back again. We did the same stretch of river and lake 3 times. Added another like 3 or 4 hours onto our day, and way too many kilometers that we didn't need to do.
Jeez.
But, we were kicking ourselves in the ass. We got back to camp. Or we got to the camp that we were supposed to get to, and we were just gassed, so done, so tired.
Bad.
Yeah, made dinner and went right to sleep.
Jeez, Fuck. Bad luck, Brian, Jeez.
Yeah, bad luck, Bryce.
Bryce. Jeez. Oh man. Oh,
He's a
buddy.
champ.
Yeah. Jeez. Oh man. So if money's not an option and I give you a magic wand and I say, all right, Joey, what's your ultimate dream adventure? Go.
I'd
Anywhere
love to
in the
say,
world, no money's an issue. Money's not an object. Whoever you take, whatever is in your gear bag, take me through it.
there's lots of places in the world that I'd like to go. But honestly, I think some of the coolest places in the world are here in Canada.
Yeah.
I'd love to go up and see some stuff in Northwest Territories, Yukon,
Mm-hmm.
Nunavut. I love going out to Newfoundland. I'm getting married out in Newfoundland with my fiance next year.
Oh man, congratulations! That'll be sick. Way to
Thank
go!
you.
Way to go! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
Kidding.
But my idea for the honeymoon was to do the East Coast Trail, which is like 6-day hike.
That's cool.
I don't know if Nicole's on board for that, but
She'll like it afterwards for sure, and probably
the accomplishment.
it's the idea of it that's never really the selling point.
Yeah, maybe not on the honeymoon. Maybe we'll do it another
couple months in.
Yeah. I think that I think Canada is a really cool place to explore, and there's a lot of things on my bucket list, and majority of them are in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
And so because I've never been to Newfoundland, but last October, me and 4 of my best friends went, and we went they drove down from Ottawa, picked me up in Sudbury, me and my buddy Alex up in Sudbury, and we drove out west and back to Victoria.
Yep.
We went as far as Victoria, and it was just a time again, just crazy things happening. You can't explain it. Like you're moving, like the days are going by so fast. Like you're exhausted, you're overtired, you're hungover, like you're drunk, your belly's full, but you're always hungry. Like it's just this weird mix of everything going on. But what's Newfoundland like?
Oh man, it's pretty cool. It's honestly like it's from another time, I would say. Yeah, if you go to this like coastal, Newfoundland's technically an island, but there's another island off of Newfoundland called Fogo Island.
Fogo?
And Fogo, Fogo, and it looks like it's from like the early 1900s. It's just like from another time. It's crazy.
Wow. I'm gonna look that up because that's one next year my buddy and I want to do. He's like, yo, when I come back from Australia, East Coast Roadie? And I was like, East Coast Roadie. So
yeah, man.
Newfoundland, hey?
Yeah, and it's a really cool spot. There's so much land that's not inhabited by humans. The city I grew up in, which is Hamilton, we've got like 538,000 people living there, and that is more than the population of the Newfoundland island as a whole. And like the actual size of land is just like astronomical.
It's enormous.
Yeah, and so like there's so much open space, and
that's cool.
You know, the winters are cold as far as I've heard, but I think that maybe one day, you know, if I do have the option to transfer out there, and I think that eventually I might end up moving there.
That'd be cool.
St. John's, yeah.
That'd be sick. Because every time, like, I grew up watching this show on CBC because we had 4 channels, and my parents are pretty old-fashioned that way, technology-wise. But so the show called Republic of Doyle was based on CBC, like in Newfoundland, and that kind of inspired all right, I want to go out there. I've been to Halifax like 7 times. I had one of my buddies who moved there second year, so every couple months I just fly out to Halifax for a weekend. And then I just been everywhere around the East Coast, everywhere around the West Coast. Never been above, and never been on to Newfoundland. So
Wow.
that's one of the bucket list items for sure in the country. So
You got to get out there, man. Honestly, the people there will let you in, and they're so, the hospitality there is just unreal. Everybody is the nicest,
that's
nicest
awesome.
person.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Good. I think that's the best way. Like that makes or breaks a trip, I think for sure, is the people you meet.
Yeah.
Like hands
Yeah.
down.
So genuine, so kind-hearted people live in Newfoundland. And I mean, a good example of that is if you ever get a chance to go see the play called From Away.
Home away?
Yeah, come from away. It's about when 9/11 happened. All the an enormous amount of the flights that were being grounded had to end up going to Gander in Newfoundland, which is a relatively small city.
Yeah.
And their population grew by like 200% in a matter of hours because all these planes that were supposed to be going into the U.S. got diverted and all landed in Gander.
Oh my!
And they opened all the schools. People were like, they got off the plane and went and lived with a family in the next town over. And
jeez,
like the people in Newfoundland were doing soup kitchens and providing food, beds, and houses for these people for weeks.
And they don't need to do that. They're doing that out of like the kindness, right? Like that's like, hey, we got this hospitality for you. Instead of them just opening up a couple schools, they're like, hey, welcome. Oh, that's crazy. You said come from away?
Yeah, come from away.
Come from away. Okay, I'll watch that afterwards.
If you're into plays and musicals, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I can make exceptions if the story's good. I'm into stories. I don't really, you're like, oh, musicals. I'm like, oh, if the story's good, like, I'm there. Yeah. So, and when it comes to East Coast stuff, like more often than not, the whole, like all the story and then Rum Runners, that everything out like East Coast story wise is just prime. So, yeah. It's a love for story. That's really it. So, so what has been, because we covered like the worst experience, or not thinking negatively, but switching gears, what's kind of been like the favorite trip you have been on so far? Because you've been event like to Italy and stuff, you've been like across the pond, you've been north, you've been south. Like
that's a good question. Obviously I liked Italy.
Yeah, you can't not. You can't not.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool trip. But I don't know, they tend to just keep getting better and better.
I mean, that's not a bad way to go.
No.
I
did do a short trip to BC when I was younger with my family.
Oh, nice.
And we flew out to Calgary, and we went to the Badlands. We went to the Dinosaur Museum.
That's nuts.
And we drove from there to a small town in BC and stayed with some relatives. And we went around hiking, and they had a cabin on a mountain, and we got to go sleep a couple nights at their cabin on the mountain. And I remember coming out of there was a what do you call it, a shitter, an outhouse, and it was late at night, it was dark, and we were having a fire earlier, but everybody had gone in the cabin, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I went to the outhouse, and then I came out of the outhouse, and I was younger. I was probably like 11, 12 maybe. And I think that they were wolves. Maybe they were coyotes. Maybe there was a group of dogs. I don't know. But in the mountains of BC, I would imagine they might have been wolves.
Yeah, they're probably wolves, man.
Yeah, they're huddled around the campfire. We must have dropped like some hot dogs or something. And I came out of the outhouse, and I was just like, "Oh!" Close the door.
Get back in that thing. Oh no, dude, that freaked me out. That freaked me out as it did. Oh man.
And then we drove up to Alaska, and we got a grizzly bear. It was pretty cool.
What was Alaska like? Because
A
that's
lot
one of
like
mine.
BC.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of trees, lots of roadside motels. It's just kind of regular, nothing
Yeah.
different. I'm sure it's changed now, but the border wasn't really much to deal with. I think we just drove right on in.
It wasn't really like it was just like, oh, now you're crossing. Be
Yeah,
mindful of Kodiak bears.
yeah,
Jeez, that's
yeah,
crazy. But
yeah. That was a good trip,
that's
but
nuts.
yeah,
Huh.
I do like the East Coast trips too, though, because Nicole's family's from out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go out and we see her nan and her pop, and they cook us Jake's dinner. And I went fishing on the ocean with their uncle, and we were
Oh, jeez.
like bottom fishing for codfish.
No, that's
Oh,
nuts.
oh, it was super cool. Yeah.
Oh my God. Man, when I go out to Newfoundland, or when I go out east, I'm gonna let you know. And I'm gonna ask you where the best spots on the way are, and then where the best spots when I'm there. Because that's like, dude, nobody knows it. Nobody knows a place like locals.
Oh yeah.
So I don't care how many times, how many pages you scroll through on Pinterest or how many hashtags you follow on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
There is nobody who knows a place better than a local.
I follow another guy out there, and all like every day he goes out hiking, and the whole like he's got his own Instagram page. I think it's uh, Backwoods Cabin NL, I believe.
Okay.
Uh, Shout out to Backwoods Cabin. And he hikes around and finds abandoned cabins all over the island. Like he'll hike for like he'll go on Google Maps and he'll zoom in and find little things that look like a shack,
He'll
or
just
you know,
go,
and he hikes through the bush to find them, and
bro.
it's a really really cool account. He
That's nuts.
straps a camera to his dog, and they just like boogie off into the woods, and yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know when I go because I'm definitely gonna have a couple questions, especially if you got people out there, you know people out there, then that's oh man, that's yeah, nobody knows like a local and like people like that. And then I found when I was out, not so much out west, but more in Europe, when I reach out to people and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing in this area. Do you know like anybody or anything you see? And more often than not, people are very, very more often than not for sure, really welcoming. It's very surprising. It's very surprising. So you saying how nice and how wholesome Newfoundlanders are kind of makes me very, very excited to see the potential and what like see what potential's there and yeah, see some cool shit come to fruition. So
Yeah, man, you won't be disappointed. It's a pretty cool slice of earth. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
awesome. That's awesome. So Joey, kind of wrapping up though, I'm really interested. I want to ask you about this. You have an indie rock band or had an indie rock band? Like tell me about this, man. How'd you get into music? Like this is crazy.
Yeah, it just kind of I just kind of rolled into it. I found like at a young age, we were doing like band and stuff in school in like middle school, grade 6, 7, 8, and I could kind of like pick up any instrument and sort of be able to play it and just figure it out without a whole lot of hassle.
Huh. Nice.
And so when I was in middle school, I did like clarinet, trumpet, tuba, drums, bass guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of got me into playing more guitar. And I used to play in like punk bands, like when I was like 10, 11 years old. We were rocking out and playing like Ramones covers, and
Jeez.
then that kind of turned because my dad was big on Ramones and the Clash and Sex Pistols and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of what I grew up on, and so I started getting into the whole punk thing, and then that turned into like hardcore thrash, hardcore, like melodic hardcore metal, you know?
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah, and
Quite the
so
jump.
we did a couple tours like in Quebec and Ontario, and had a blast, man. Just like 5 guys in a band, just boogieing around and having a time.
That'd be a really good TV show, like a docu-series, 5 guys in a band, or in a
Yeah,
band or something along those lines. Add that to your page, like something cool.
yeah. There
Oh,
would be a lot of censoring, but yeah.
everything will just be like blurred out, even if it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
need
yeah.
to. Just man, that'd be funny.
And then I started doing like singing training. So rather than screaming like I did in the hardcore band, I was doing like singing training. And I kind of did the whole Dallas Green thing, and I started playing like singer songwriter indie acoustic guitar stuff and singing at the same time. And then that kind of I wrote like an EP, and then I recorded it, and I played all the instruments on the record. I played the drums, the bass, the guitar, the second guitar, and the singing. And then I produced this CD, and then I ended up like asking around for other players to join in. I found my buddy Shane, who's a great guitar player. I had already known all these guys from the hardcore scene, right? So I had like this network, and then I got Shane on board, and then Ethan and Matt, and we started making records with this indie band, and I think it was a lot of fun. I think it could have went somewhere, but
Yeah.
Life gets in the way, and
priorities, and then trying to keep everything together.
Yeah, and a hobby turned occupation can sometimes muddy the water, and then the enjoyment kind of gets taken away from it. But
yeah, I've heard that like 2 or 3 times this week from different people around. Just be like, man, I'm really into cars, but I now never work on my cars because I do it all day. I'm like, well,
yeah,
there you go. So
yeah,
but at least now, like, you still play, like you said at the beginning of the show, like you still play. It's just you're just not producing anything out, like putting anything out there, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I got what I wanted out of all of that.
Nice.
Touring, having a blast. I remember when I was like really, really young, my parents would ask me, "What do you want to be?" And I'd say, "I want to be a rock star."
And you got to become one.
Well, yeah,
like a momentary, like
small
portion, yeah.
But I lived that type of life for for fun, and I think that if it was anything more than that, I don't think it would have been so much fun.
Yeah, I'd feel more like you said, like a chore or an occupation, just something to pay the bills. And there's a stress that comes with something like that, and there's a pressure that creates fatigue, and then you get drained from it, and then that ruins the passion.
There's a friend of mine who did end up being like a large scale musician. And I heard through somebody else that they kind of found themselves backed into a corner because now they can't really do anything else with their life except for do this one thing, and they don't really have a backup plan, and that could be very stressful, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's like, well, if this doesn't go well, and you're banking on not your own performance, you're banking on what other people think of you, which is kind of the shittiest thing. It's like, hey, if people really like you, you'll do well, but it's very tough to control what other people think. It's pretty much impossible. You can use emotion to sway, but that's pretty much, I think, as good as you're gonna get. So
yeah, I think that looking back, the transition from high school, being involved in bands and doing university and flunking out of that, doing all these shitty jobs to get where I am today, like I've got zero regrets, and it's nothing but good times as far as I like look back on.
That's awesome. Now, Joey, closing up, what do you think is one thing you've learned or one message you have that you want to kind of spread to the people who know you and are watching and listening, or the people who have never heard of you and are just here for me, or the people who just are interested to hear what you have to say?
Yeah, I don't know. Get outside, and don't try and plan your next step always. Like, fall into your next step. Let yourself just kind of roll into it.
Roll it, fall into your next step.
Okay, get outside and be with nature, and be kind to the earth. When you go on a walk, pick up trash along the way, stick it in your pocket.
Interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. So, man, where can people find you? What do you want to plug? Now's your red carpet moment. So
I can. So yeah, you can check out Wild Geographer on the Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel that I upload a lot of my outdoor activities and outdoor adventures. Do some gear reviews. I let you know the pros and cons of all the equipment that I use, and if you like the outdoors and you like sharing adventures, join the community, and love to have you.
amazing. All right, and yeah, everything will be linked in descriptions and stuff to you, Joey. I really appreciate it, man. This is a blast, brother. I'm grateful for your time, and thank you for being here, bro.
Awesome, Glenn. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I had a blast, and it was a pleasure getting to know you.
Awesome, brother.